A couple of you were at Frackville yesterday. But again, just kind of getting caught up on where we're at in our story of the Acts of the Apostles, where Paul and Barnabas go out and from Antioch in Syria and start preaching in other areas as well as other Christians. As they do that, not only are they bringing those who were dedicated, to their Jewish faith and those that love God and wanted to follow his law, many of those were coming to believe in Jesus, the Messiah, the Christ, but also Greeks who were pagans, who had really no affiliation, with the one true God, were also coming into the fold. And so what happened was some of, the early Christians were telling them, hey, look, hey, welcome. Okay, but now we need to circumcise you, and you gotta do this ritual purity procedure before you eat meals, and this is what you can eat and this is what you can't eat, and giving them pretty much the list of the 480 something, I could be wrong on that number, precepts of the Old Testament law that they had to follow. And then others like Paul and Barnabas were saying, hey, wait a second, no, the faith in Jesus Christ, that's what circumcision is now. That circumcises the heart. Sure, we keep the Old Testament, but, it's now faith in Jesus Christ that makes us part of God's people and what saves us. And so the two groups are disputing. And so they take the matter up to Jerusalem, where we heard in yesterday's first reading, where Peter stands up as the head of the apostles. Peter stands up and gives his verdict, and everybody falls silent. Everybody's like, okay, Peter has spoken. This is what we're going to do. And Peter, for the most part, sided with Paul and Barnabas, about our salvation is through grace and faith in Jesus Christ, and not in the precepts of the law. And so today's first reading is now a letter that is going to be sent to the church in Syria, along with Paul and Barnabas and a few other representatives of Peter. You can see already in the early Christian community, the current ecclesial structure which we have today, of course not as elaborate or detailed, but you can see what we have today is present right here in the Acts of the Apostles, where Peter now is sending delegates and giving really his teaching, his encyclical, to this Christian community, explaining his decision and where they're going to go from there. And so he says this, we have with one accord, so it's not just Peter, but it's also his fellow, what we would call now bishops. It wasn't called then. But his fellow bishops with one accord decided to choose and send you along, and then I'm sorry, I got lost here. That is the decision of the Holy Spirit and of us, not to place on you any burdens beyond necessities. It is the one of teaching, the Holy Spirit and of us. And that's what we have today. Now, some, if not many, Catholics will consider the teachings of the church a burdensome. But I would say really the intention is meant to be quite the opposite. The reason for it is that we need guidance. So here in the early church, we already had a very important dispute. And at the time, there was no clear answer. We needed a clear answer. The church here needed a clean answer. And so some will say, well, it's what you believe and what you feel, but that doesn't give any unity. It gives a lot of chaos, different people going in different directions. God gave us sacramentally a visible presence of his guidance. That's what the teachings of the church does. That's the purpose of it. It's to give a clear and direct path that comes from the Holy Spirit and comes from God. And it's the teaching of the church that keeps us together. And that it gives us direction, so that when you have two disputes, two opposite things, we go to the teachings of the church, and if there's not one yet on it, there is going to be. Again, giving us a direction as to where to go. Because throughout the Gospel of John in this Last Supper discourse, and we're going to continue to hear it this Sunday and next Sunday, Jesus talks about the importance of unity among the apostles. Unity. And so it's through the Holy Spirit, through the magisterium, through the teachings of the church, which we begin to see take place here in the Acts of the Apostles, but also in our present day life. That gives us clear direction. That, God, where are you leading us? What do we do? Oh, we have it. We know where to turn to. We turn to the church. May God bless you.